I opened my eyes to silk sheets I'd burned in my previous life. My heart hammered against my ribs. The morning light filtered through curtains I remembered tearing down in grief. My hands, smooth, unlined, free of the scars from years of scrubbing floors, trembled as I pressed them against my face. 23 again. The wedding was in 3 days. My stomach twisted. I could still feel the phantom weight of the rope around my neck from my first life. Could still taste the bitterness of realising too late that the man I'd married had never loved me at all. James Whitmore, the mayor's golden son, the man who'd promised me the world and given me a grave. "Melissa?" My mother's voice drifted through the door, sickeningly sweet. "Are you awake, darling? We have the final dress fitting today." I stared at the ceiling, my breath coming in short bursts. In my previous life, I'd jumped out of bed, eager and naive. I'd believed my mother actually cared about my happiness. I'd believed the dress fitting was about me looking beautiful. I'd been such a fool. "Melissa?" "I'm not going," I said, my voice flat. Silence. Then the door burst open. My mother stood there in her designer suit, her smile frozen in place like a mask about to crack. "What did you say?" I sat up slowly, meeting her eyes. In my past life, I'd wilted under that gaze. I'd apologised. I'd obeyed. Not anymore. I said, "I'm not going to the fitting." I threw back the covers. "Because there won't be a wedding." Her face went white, then red. "Have you lost your mind?" "No." I stood, feeling steadier than I had in years. In lifetimes. "I found it." My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. Behind her, I heard my father's heavy footsteps thundering up the stairs. "Here we go." My father filled the doorway, his face already purple with rage. Richard Hayes, real estate mogul, had built his empire on the backs of people he crushed without a second thought. I used to think he was powerful. Now I knew he was just a bully who'd sold his daughter for a political alliance. "What the hell is going on?" he barked. "Melissa has decided to throw away her future," my mother said, her voice dripping with venom. "Tell her, Richard. Tell her what happens if she embarrasses us." I crossed my arms. My heart was racing, but my voice came out cold and clear. "You mean, tell me what happens if I don't marry James Whitmore so you can get those construction contracts from his father?" My father's eyes narrowed. "Watch your mouth." "Or what?" I took a step forward. The old Melissa would have backed down. The old Melissa had died choking on her own tears in a mansion that became her prison. "You'll cut me off? Disown me? Go ahead." My mother gasped. "You ungrateful little—" "I know about the offshore accounts," I said quietly. The room went silent. My father's face drained of colour. In my previous life, I'd discovered his illegal dealings 3 years into my marriage, when James had casually mentioned them over dinner. By then, I was already trapped, already broken, already drowning in debt James had manufactured to keep me dependent. But I remembered. I remembered everything. "I don't know what you're talking about," my father said, but his voice had lost its thunder. "The shell companies in the Caymans, the bribes to city officials, the construction accidents that were never investigated." I smiled, and it felt like ice cracking across my face. "Should I go on?" My mother grabbed my father's arm. "She's bluffing." "Am I?" I walked to my closet and pulled out my phone. "Because I have a very interesting conversation scheduled with a journalist friend tomorrow. Unless, of course, you'd like to respect my decision. I didn't actually have evidence yet, but I knew where to find it. And more importantly, they didn't know what I knew." My father stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. "Who are you?" "Someone who won't be your pawn anymore." I met his eyes without flinching. "The wedding is off. Tell James whatever you want. Tell him I'm sick. Tell him I'm crazy. I don't care." "He won't accept this," my father said. "The Whitmores won't." "Then let them come." I watched them leave, my mother's heels clicking like gunshots down the hallway. When the door closed, my legs finally gave out and I sank onto the bed, my whole body shaking. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. Now came the hard part. James called 17 times before I finally answered. "Melissa? Sweetheart? What's going on?" His voice was smooth as honey, exactly the way I remembered. The way that used to make my heart flutter. "Your parents are very upset." I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling nothing but cold clarity. "The wedding's off, James." A pause. Then a laugh, warm and indulgent. "Is this about wedding jitters? Because that's completely normal, baby. We can postpone if you need. I'm not marrying you." The silence that followed was different, sharper. "Melissa?" His voice had changed, it lost the honey. "I don't know what's gotten into you, but this isn't funny. It's not meant to be. We've been planning this for 8 months. The venue is booked. The invitations are sent. My father has already..." He stopped himself. "Already what?" I asked softly. "Already promised you that promotion? Already lined up the properties he'll transfer to you once you're married into the Hayes family fortune?" "What the hell are you talking about?" I closed my eyes. In my previous life, I'd learned about his schemes, one humiliating piece at a time. The fake business investments he'd made in my name, the loans he'd taken out using my inheritance as collateral. The affairs, so many affairs, that everyone seemed to know about except me. "I'm talking about the fact that you don't love me, James. You love what marrying me gives you." "That's insane." But there was an edge to his voice now. Panic, maybe, or anger. "Melissa, whatever's going on, we can talk about this. Just let me come over. Let me see you." "No, Melissa." "Goodbye, James." I hung up. My hands were steady. My heart was ice. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. Tomorrow I'd start gathering evidence. Tomorrow I'd begin building the case that would destroy him. Tonight I'd simply breathe in my freedom. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I slid into the booth across from Daniel Park. He looked up from his laptop, his journalist's eyes sharp and assessing. "Melissa Hayes, I wasn't sure you'd actually show." "I wasn't sure I'd invited you," I said lightly, "but here we are." Daniel and I had been college friends in my previous life, before James had systematically isolated me from everyone I cared about. Daniel had tried to warn me about James back then. I'd thought he was jealous. I'd been so wrong. "I heard an interesting rumour," Daniel said, closing his laptop. "Something about a certain high-profile wedding being called off." "Not a rumour." His eyebrows rose. "So it's true? You actually dumped the golden boy?" "I did. Why?" He leaned forward. 3 days ago, you were posting engagement photos. What changed? Everything. Nothing. I died and been reborn and remembered everything I needed to know. Let's just say I came to my senses, I said instead, and now I need your help. Daniel studied me for a long moment. You're different? Is that a problem? No. A slow smile spread across his face. It's interesting. What kind of help are we talking about? I pulled out a folder. Inside were printouts, bank statements I'd borrowed from my father's office this morning, construction permits with suspicious approval dates, photos of meetings that weren't supposed to exist. I need you to investigate James Whitmore, I said quietly, and I need you to do it carefully, because he's more dangerous than anyone realizes. Daniel flipped through the pages, his expression growing darker with each one. Jesus, Melissa, how did you get these? Does it matter? It might. If any of this is going to hold up, I need to know. It's all legal, I lied smoothly. In my previous life, I'd learned to lie very well. My father keeps terrible records. These were just lying around. Daniel's eyes met mine. He didn't believe me, but he also didn't push. There's more, I continued. James has been skimming funds from his father's campaign. He has a separate apartment downtown that the family doesn't know about, and he's been meeting with Vincent Russo. That last name made Daniel freeze. The Vincent Russo? The one under federal investigation for racketeering? The same. How do you know all this? I couldn't tell him the truth. Couldn't say that in my previous life I'd found out these things the hard way, by living through the nightmare of being married to James, by watching him destroy everything and everyone around him. I've been paying attention, I said instead, and I'm tired of watching him hurt people. Daniel stared at me, something like respect flickering in his eyes. You know he'll come after you for this. His family has serious power in this city. Let him try. Melissa, I'm not asking you to protect me, Daniel. I'm asking you to help me expose the truth. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. All right, but we do this my way. No illegal surveillance. No breaking and entering. If we're taking down the mayor's son, we do it by the book. Agreed. As I left the coffee shop, I felt eyes on me. I turned to see a black sedan parked across the street, its windows tinted dark. James's car. My pulse quickened, but I didn't run. Instead, I walked straight toward it, my heels clicking on the pavement. When I was 10 feet away, the engine started and the car pulled away. Running already, James? Good. You should be afraid. My phone buzzed constantly for the next 2 days. James, my mother. Unknown numbers that I suspected were James's friends or family. I ignored them all. Instead, I spent my time doing what I should have done in my first life. Preparing. I transferred my trust fund to a new bank account my parents couldn't access. I collected every document, every photo, every scrap of evidence I could find about James's activities. And I waited. On the third day, my mother showed up at my apartment, the one I'd moved into the morning after our confrontation. She'd used her emergency key, of course. You can't hide from this forever, she said, standing in my living room like an unwelcome ghost. I looked up from my laptop. I am not hiding. I am simply choosing not to engage. The Whitmores are furious. Mayor Whitmore himself called your father. Do you understand what you've done? Yes. I closed my laptop. I've saved myself from a lifetime of misery. My mother's perfect makeup couldn't hide the rage in her eyes. You selfish, stupid girl, that marriage was going to secure everything for this family. You mean for you and Dad? I was just the currency. We gave you everything, she was shouting now, her composure finally cracking. Private schools, designer clothes, the best of everything, and this is how you repay us? You gave me those things to make me marriageable, I said coldly, to make me an asset you could trade. Well, I'm not for sale anymore. You think you can make it on your own? She laughed, sharp and bitter. You've never worked a day in your life. You have no skills, no experience. Then I'll learn. James won't let this go. You've humiliated him. His pride is the least of his worries. My mother went very still. What does that mean? I smiled. You'll see. Everyone will see. After she left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows, I opened my laptop again. Daniel had sent me an email. Got something big. Meet me at the usual place, 8 p.m. Come alone. My hands trembled slightly as I typed my response. This was it. The beginning of the end. For James, anyway. For me, it was just the beginning. The parking garage was dark and empty when I arrived. My footsteps echoed off concrete as I made my way to Daniel's car. He was waiting, engine running, face grim. Get in, he said. I slid into the passenger seat. What did you find? He handed me a tablet. On the screen was a video, dark and grainy, time-stamped from 3 weeks ago. Watch, he said quietly. I pressed play. The footage showed James entering a warehouse on the outskirts of town. Another figure emerged from the shadows. Vincent Rousseau, his face unmistakable even in the low light. They talked. Money changed hands. A third person appeared, carrying what looked like architectural plans. "That third person," Daniel said, "is Thomas Wright. He's a city inspector." My breath caught. The same inspector who approved the Riverside development? The one that collapsed 2 months ago. The one that killed 4 construction workers. In my previous life, I'd read about that collapse. James had mentioned it once, dismissively, like it was just an unfortunate accident. I'd believed him. I'd believed everything. "There's more," Daniel continued. "I've been tracking James's financial records, the legal ones. He's been making regular payments to offshore accounts. I think he's been laundering money for Rousseau's organisation." "Can you prove it?" "Not yet. But combined with this video, with the evidence you gave me, with a few more weeks of investigation." He looked at me, his expression serious. "Melissa, this is federal crime territory. If we go public with this, it won't just destroy James, it could bring down his father too." The mayor, the man who'd welcomed me into his family with false warmth, the man who'd sat at my engagement party and toasted to my future while knowing his son was a monster. "Good," I said. "You're sure about this? Once this story breaks, there's no going back. Your family's business ties to the Whitmores, your father's own activities. All of it will come under scrutiny." I thought about my previous life, about the nights I'd spent crying in empty rooms while James was out with other women, about the debt he'd buried me under, about the way he'd smiled at my funeral, already planning his next marriage, his next victim. "I'm sure..." Daniel nodded slowly. "All right, I need 1 more week to lock down the sources, verify the documents. Can you stay safe until then?" "I can handle James." "I'm not worried about James." He glanced in the rearview mirror. "I'm worried about Rousseau. If he finds out we're looking into his operation..." "He won't." "How can you be so sure?" "Because in my previous life, Rousseau had been arrested 6 months after my wedding. The investigation that brought him down had started before I even met James. But I couldn't tell Daniel that. "Trust me," I said instead. As I drove home, my phone rang. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Melissa." James's voice was cold, all pretense of affection gone. "We need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about." "I think we do, because I've been hearing some very interesting things about you meeting with journalists, about you making accusations." My grip tightened on the steering wheel. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play games with me." His voice dropped to a whisper. "You think you can walk away from me. You think you can embarrass my family, and there won't be consequences." "Are you threatening me, James? I'm warning you. Whatever you think you know, whatever you think you can prove, stop. Now, before you do something you'll regret." "The only thing I regret," I said quietly, "is ever saying yes to you." I hung up. My hands were shaking now, but not with fear, with anticipation. Let him be afraid. Let him scramble and panic and realize that his perfect plan was falling apart. Because the storm was coming, and I was going to watch him drown in it. The next morning, I found my car tires slashed. I stood in the parking garage staring at the damage, feeling a cold fury settle over me. This was James's work. It had to be a warning, a threat, a promise of worse to come. I took photos from every angle, then called a rideshare to take me to the police station. Officer Patricia Hughes, a woman I'd met briefly in my previous life at a charity event, took my statement with professional courtesy. "Do you have any idea who might have done this, Miss Hayes?" I hesitated. In my first life, I'd learned to be silent, to swallow my pain and pretend everything was fine. Not anymore. "James Whitmore," I said clearly. Her pen paused on the paper. The mayor's son? Yes, I recently ended our engagement. He's been unhappy about it. Has he threatened you directly? Last night, on the phone, I have the call log. Officer Hughes studied me for a long moment. Miss Hayes, I need to be honest with you. Making accusations against someone like James Whitmore without solid evidence. I understand the position you're in, I interrupted gently, but I'm filing this report anyway, for the record. Because in 6 days, when Daniel's story broke, this report would matter. It would be part of a pattern. Part of the evidence that James Whitmore wasn't the golden boy everyone thought he was. As I left the police station, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop asking questions. Last warning. I deleted it, but not before screenshotting it and sending it to Daniel. His response came immediately. Stay somewhere public today. I'm moving up the timeline. My heart raced. How soon? Tomorrow night. The story goes live at 10 p.m. Tomorrow. Less than 24 hours. I spent the rest of the day at a busy coffee shop, my laptop open, my eyes on the door. Every time it opened, my muscles tensed. Every stranger who walked past felt like a potential threat. But no one came. As the sun set, I finally allowed myself to relax slightly. One more night. Just one more night of hiding, of watching over my shoulder, of pretending I wasn't terrified. Then the truth would be out there. Then everyone would know. I was packing up my laptop when my phone rang. My father's name flashed on the screen. Melissa. His voice was strange. Flat. You need to come home. Now. I'm not. Your mother is in the hospital. The world tilted. What? She had a car accident. They're saying... His voice cracked. They're saying the brakes failed. Melissa, they're saying someone tampered with her car. My blood turned to ice. I'm on my way. As I ran to catch a cab, one thought circled my mind like a vulture. This wasn't an accident. James was escalating, and tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. My mother lay in the hospital bed, her face pale against the white pillows, her arm in a cast. She'd survived, barely. The doctors said if she'd been going any faster, if she'd been on the highway instead of a residential street. I didn't let myself finish that thought. My father sat beside her, looking older than I'd ever seen him. When I entered, he looked up with eyes full of something I'd never seen before. Fear. They found the brake line, he said quietly. It was cut, deliberately. Who would do this? My mother whispered. Who would... She stopped when she saw my face. You know, she said, don't you? I sat down slowly. I have suspicions. James, my father's voice was hollow. This is because of the wedding. This is because I walked away from him. I looked at my mother, at the bandages and bruises. And he's sending a message. We need to go to the police, my father said. We need to... They won't believe us. I pulled out my phone, showed them the threatening texts. Not without evidence, not against the mayor's son. Then what do we do? My mother's voice was small, frightened. I'd never heard her sound like that before. Tomorrow night, I said quietly, a story is going to break. About James. About the things he's done. The crimes he's committed. My father went very still. What kind of story? The kind that ends careers. The kind that sends people to prison. Melissa. My mother reached for my hand, her grip weak. What have you done? What I should have done from the beginning. I'm stopping him. My father stood abruptly. You've put us all in danger. If James thinks we're responsible... He already knows it's me. I stood too, meeting his eyes. And I'm not backing down. Not now. Not ever. I left them there, in that sterile hospital room, and went to find Daniel. He answered on the first ring. Melissa, what's wrong? My mother's in the hospital. Someone cut her brake lines. Silence then. Jesus. Are you okay? I'm fine. She'll be fine, but Daniel, we can't wait until tomorrow night. The story's not ready. I need to verify 2 more sources, get legal clearance. People are getting hurt. My voice cracked. James is escalating. If we wait, someone might die. If we publish without proper verification, the story falls apart, James walks free, and everyone gets hurt. I closed my eyes. He was right. I knew he was right. But it felt like drowning. I'm going to the police, Daniel said. I'm going to show them what we have. At least get you some protection. No. I steadied my voice. We stick to the plan. Tomorrow night. But I'm not going home tonight. Where will you go? I thought of the small hotel across town, the one I'd scouted last week as a backup plan. Somewhere safe. Text me the address. I'll have someone watching. As I hung up, I realised my hands had stopped shaking. The fear was still there, cold and heavy in my chest. But beneath it was something stronger. Rage. James had hurt my mother, had threatened me, had shown me exactly what kind of monster he really was. Tomorrow night, the world would see it too, and there would be nowhere left for him to hide. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the hotel bed watching shadows move across the ceiling, my phone clutched in my hand. Every sound made me jump. Every car that passed outside could be James, could be someone he sent. At 3 a.m, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Stories locked, going live in 19 hours. Are you ready? I typed back, yes, but I wasn't sure if I was lying. The morning crawled by. I ordered room service, barely touched it, took a shower, got dressed in clothes that felt like armour, checked the news obsessively, waiting for some sign that James knew what was coming. At noon, my phone rang. James. I almost didn't answer, but something made me press accept. Melissa? His voice was strained. I heard about your mother. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. The audacity. The absolute audacity. Did you? I asked quietly. Did I what? Did you cut her brakes, James? Or did you have someone do it for you? A long pause. Then, incredibly, he laughed. You think I'm capable of something like that? I think you're capable of anything. Melissa, sweetheart, you're paranoid. Your mother's accident was just that. An accident. Bad brakes. It happens. Stop lying to me. I'm not... I know everything, James. The words poured out of me, months of pain and rage from a life he didn't even know I'd lived. I know about the money laundering. I know about Russo. I know about the Riverside collapse. I know about all of it. Silence. Long enough that I thought he'd hung up. Then, you're making a very serious mistake. The only mistake I ever made was trusting you. Listen to me carefully, he said, his voice dropping to something cold and sharp. Whatever you think you know, whatever you think you can prove, it won't matter. My father is the mayor. We have friends in every department of this city. You're nobody, Melissa. A spoiled, rich girl with a grudge. We'll see. By this time tomorrow, you'll be the one who looks crazy. You'll be the one who... Check the news tonight, I interrupted. 10 p.m, and then we'll talk about who looks crazy. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were steady now. My heart was calm. The hours ticked by. 6 p.m, 7, 8. At 9, Daniel called. It's live, he said. The story just went up online. It'll hit the TV news at 10. And the FBI has already called me. They want to talk about Russo, about James. Melissa, it's happening. It's really happening. I closed my eyes. In my previous life, I'd been so powerless, so trapped, so broken by the man I'd married. Not this time. This time I'd won. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for trusting me with this, for being brave enough to... My hotel room door burst open. James stood there, his face twisted with rage, a hotel keycard in his hand. I'll call you back, I said calmly to Daniel, and hung up. You did it, James breathed. You actually did it. How did you get in here? I own this hotel. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Did you really think you could hide from me? My pulse quickened, but I kept my voice level. The story's out, James. It's over. It's not over until I say it is. He moved toward me, and I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. The same look he'd had in my previous life, the night he'd... I grabbed my phone, but he was faster. He ripped it from my hand, threw it against the wall. It shattered. You've ruined everything, he said, his voice shaking. My career, my father's career, our family name. You ruined it yourself. I just made sure people knew the truth. His hand shot out, grabbed my arm. His grip was bruising, desperate. You're going to go on camera, he said, tomorrow. You're going to tell everyone you lied, that you made it all up because you were angry about the breakup. No, you don't have a choice. There's always a choice, James. I learned that the hard way. He stared at me, confusion flickering across his face. What are you talking about? I almost told him then, almost explained about the previous life, about dying and coming back, about knowing everything before it happened. But what would be the point? It doesn't matter, I said instead. What matters is that you can't hurt anyone else. Not anymore. His grip tightened. You have no idea what you've done. Rousseau won't let this stand. He'll come after you, after your family. Rousseau was arrested 20 minutes ago. Federal agents raided his warehouse based on the evidence in Daniel's story. James's face went white. That's impossible. It's over, James. Let me go. For a moment, I thought he might do something terrible. His eyes were wild, his breathing ragged. Then, voices echoed in the hallway. Hotel security responding to Daniel's call. James released me, stumbling backward. This isn't over, Melissa. I'll fight this. I'll prove you're lying. You'll go to prison, I said quietly. Just like you deserve. The door opened. Security guards filled the room. One of them looked at James, recognition dawning. Mr. Whitmore? Sir, we're going to need you to come with us. I watched him being led away, his perfect facade finally crumbling, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. It was over, finally. Truly over. Epilogue, 3 months later. The trial was the media event of the decade. James Whitmore, Golden Boy, Mayor's son, charged with money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit murder in connection with the Riverside collapse. His father resigned in disgrace. The family empire crumbled. Everything James had built his life around turned to ash. And I watched it all from a distance, rebuilding my own life, piece by piece. I cut ties with my parents. They'd chosen their business interests over my safety one too many times. I sold my trust fund properties, donated half the money to the families of the Riverside victims, and used the rest to start over. Daniel's story won awards. He offered to split the prize money with me. I refused. On the day of James's sentencing, 15 years federal prison, I received a letter from him. I hope you're happy, it said. You've destroyed everything I worked for, everything I was going to become. Was it worth it? I burned the letter without finishing it. Some questions don't deserve answers. Instead, I stood on my apartment balcony, watching the sunset paint the city gold, and thought about the life I'd been given. The second chance that shouldn't have been possible. In my first life, I died choking on despair, trapped by my own choices. In this life, I'd chosen differently, and I'd never been more free. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Coffee tomorrow? I have a new story I'm working on. Could use your insight. I smiled and typed back, I'll be there. Because this was my life now. Not the one my parents had planned. Not the one James had tried to force me into. Mine. And I was never giving it away again. The city lights began to flicker on, one by one, like stars being born. Somewhere out there, James sat in a cell, finally facing the consequences of his actions. Somewhere out there, other women were safe from him. And somewhere in the quiet chambers of my heart, the ghost of my previous life finally rested. I raised my coffee cup to the sunset, to the second chance, to the future I'd fought for and won. Here's to rebirth, I whispered to the wind. And the wind, kind for once, whispered back, here's to freedom.